One of the things I want to sit here and I want to tell you is that you can do anything that you want to do. You can change the world, even though people think that they can't change the world. But before we go ahead and get into that, make sure you like, subscribe, and share our content. Now let's go ahead and get into this topic. We want to talk about idle time. And as they say, idle time is a devil's playground. And the devil will play. Now, the reason why I say that is because idle time gets you nowhere fast. You're not doing anything, you're not progressing, and you're pretty much just looking, let's just say you're looking at the wall, or you're looking at TV, or in modern days time, you're just looking at your phone all day long. Now, this is not to judge anybody. This is more of a motivation. This is more of something to get you going and to push you in the right direction and to tell you and to show you that you can achieve more than anybody in the world. There is an opportunity. Time waits for nobody, and we have to value as much time as possible. Now, one of my favorite stories about idle time, and this is my personal story, is after I got custody of my son, I flunked out of not high school, I flunked out of college. Flunked out of college my first time through. And I went through a summer program. And I failed. College was just too much for me. I went to a four-year university, and it was a big university, so I was sitting in a classroom of like 300 people. You know, it's kind of difficult when you go from a class of 32 people to a class of 300 people, and you know, you're solely responsible for going to school, you're solely responsible for understanding your schedule and being on time, and you know, all these semi-adult things while going to college. And let me tell you, it was difficult for me, going from a public school into a university and having these large classes, having a professor that barely speak English, and then having these breakout sessions in these smaller classrooms to try to go over the content. And here I am trying to work night shift, trying to go to school in the morning, trying to sleep after school, not studying, trying to juggle everything. And eventually I just funked out. And then I spent the next 3-4 years just working, wheels just spinning, doing nothing, running the streets with my friends, hanging out late night. And I'll be honest with you, I was drinking before I was even 21. So I was drinking, smoking cigars, smoking cigarettes, just having a good time, and really enjoying myself. Driving my cousins around. My cousins would call me. I was like their little chauffeur from time to time. And we'll get put over by the police, and we'll have some incidents with them. And, nothing that, really put us in jail or anything, but, just getting put over for just stupid stuff. Just driving or whatever. So, in some cases, driving while black. We had those type of scenarios and situations. So, but for those 4 years, from 18 to like 22, 23, I did nothing. Then my son was born, and I realized that the time that I was spending doing absolutely nothing could be put in a better situation, in a better place. And I knew for him, my idle time had to be used, or had to be put to use, something way more valuable, so I could be able to take care of him, so I'll be able to provide for him in ways where I didn't have so much. I didn't have the same opportunities. Well, I didn't have the same, my parents didn't have the same financial means. And I didn't want to, they had the same financial means to, do the things that I wanted to do at the time. Well, primarily when I was a kid, all I wanted to do was play basketball and run up the street all day long. So that was fairly simple and easy. But I still wanted to provide something different for my son. I wanted to make sure that while he was growing up, we had our own space. We had reliable transportation. We always had food in the refrigerator. He had a place to call home, somewhere that was warm. And it's not to say that I didn't have that stuff, because I had a very hardworking mother, a very loving grandmother, a very loving auntie. My family and I was close when we were younger, and we played together. We had great friends. But I wanted something different for my son, and I was raised without my father, so I wanted to make sure that was in my son's life. So I had to put all the idle time that I had to use to make sure that I was there for him in ways where my dad wasn't there for me. I wanted to make sure that I had the finances to do all the things that he wanted to do. If he wanted a bike every year, I wanted to make sure that he had that. If he wanted to try out guitar or drums, which he played the drums, I wanted to make sure that I provided him with that. So there were a lot of things that I wanted to make sure that I was able to provide, that he was able to have, that either I didn't think of or I didn't have access to when I was younger. And it doesn't mean access to as if it wasn't there. It was just access as in maybe I didn't know that it was available at the time. So I had to put my idle time to use. And I took my idle time and I put it towards school. And when I put it towards school, that was the point in time that I actually made my time actually work for me. And it was difficult. So in my first attempt at going back to school, and I remember where I started at, because after I left the 4-year university, I went to a private college. And the private college was like literally up the street from where I lived. So I went to a private college, and I would drive over there, and I went there for like 3 semesters. But then the school ended up closing. So then there was my opportunity right there where I lost out because the school ended up closing. So then I went to a community college, and all the while I'm doing this, I end up publishing 3 books. So I'm publishing 3 books, being a father, and I'm going out and I'm going to school, working, being a father, and I'm publishing my books. And I'm going out and being on stage some nights, promoting myself as an artist, so I can get recognition, so I can sell my books as well. So I'm doing all these various things, and my weekends were busy, my weeknights was busy. I mean, it was just 24/7. Spending 40 hours at work, then spending another 8 to 16 hours in the evening at school. Then from there, going to the poetry clubs and doing poetry, and then finding time to write and edit and put it in a book, and finding ways to promote and self-publish and formatting and editing. Like, it was a whole process. It's a little easier now to do it, but back then it was a whole process. And the process was just way more strenuous then than it is now, because obviously of technology. But those are some of the things I was doing in the early stages. And even at the community college, what ended up happening is I had to leave there, because being there, what ended up happening is some stuff with fast food, and they ended up reversing some funds, or how the case is. And when they ended up reversing the funds, that left me with a bill that I couldn't really afford right then and there. So I stopped going to school, and I gave up at that point because I was discouraged. It really wasn't much more for me to do at that point in time. So I went back into idle time. By this time, I had custody of my son. So my idle time is still just going in circles at this point in time. So I'm picking him up, dropping him off at daycare, going to work, picking him up from daycare, going home, and playing with him, or showing him some alphabets and some shapes, and trying to help his learning and everything, and making sure that we got food and he got clothes, just all that stuff. So my days became pretty routine. Then I got laid off, and when I got laid off, I was laid off for 30 days, mind you. Okay, that was the first gripe that I have. I was laid off for 30 days. So, laid off for 30 days. And one of the big things here is that because I was laid off, I realized that jobs don't care about you. You're nothing but a number. And at this time, I had been at my job for about 8 years. Going strong, about 8 years. So I was about 28, 29. About 29, and I got laid off. And I realized at this point in time that jobs don't care about you, and that they will get rid of you if they have to. It's been evident in the past few years with the pandemic happening. Jobs are downsizing, the whole 9 yards. So I experienced this, about 19 years ago, and I was devastated. I mean, I can't explain to you the feeling that I had to mask at work, and when I got home, knowing that I was laid off, didn't have to get up and go to work in the morning, didn't have another check coming, I had all these bills that were going to be due, and I'm trying to find work, and I can't find work. I'm going to job fairs, I'm looking everywhere, and I'm looking at my skill set, and I didn't have much skill set. Now, I had a job that I worked on the weekends, but that wasn't bringing enough money. Even if I decided to work full time, it still wasn't gonna bring in enough money to pay the rent, the car note. I had a lawsuit on my back at the time, and all this stuff just happened in my idle time. And I don't tell you this story as as a means of whatever you may perceive. I'm telling the story because this is something that I went through personally, and I understand what idle time can do. I had my son in idle time. Imagine if I was dedicating myself to basketball, I was dedicating myself to training, dedicating myself to a lot of other things outside of out here jumping in and out of girls' legs. Out of just for the sheer fun of it, or just dating and being in a relationship and want to be an adult, want to be grown. And then I had a kid, and then my whole life changed right then and there, and I had to figure it out at that point in time. And that happened in my idle time. I got into arguments, disputes, fights in my idle time. People wanted to fight me, wanted to do all kind of stuff when I was younger. In my idle time was the devil's playground, and I found myself in the most trouble in idle time because I was in the streets. I was in places where I clearly shouldn't have been, hanging out with friends that I probably shouldn't have been hanging out with because they was in their idle time too, and in their idle time they was doing stuff way more grittier than I could have imagined. But because we were cool and we hung out, I wasn't exposed to that side of them. I was exposed to hey, we go chill, hang out, ride around. Yeah, that's cool. But what they did on the other half of their life, I wasn't exposed to. But when we were together, if it was ever come up or a situation was to happen, then I would be in that situation right along with them because idle time. So I took my idle time and I wanted to turn it into a business. I cannot stand just sitting around not doing anything. And that's the real issue with it. And you can do a lot in your idle time. I mean, you can work out. Exercise is great to do in your idle time. Whether you go to the gym and work out, you work out at home, or you just go outside and you just run. It's all great activities to do in your idle time. I don't want you to ever think or believe that you have to do something, extraordinary for your idle time just to benefit. It's whatever you want to make it. You can do paintings and get so good at doing paintings where you sell them. I love doing paintings in my spare time. I love writing in my spare time whenever I can get around to it. I like playing video games. in my spare time. But I want my idle time to be a business. My spare time and my idle time is two different things. See, my spare time is the time that I have where I can find fulfillment and joy in what I'm doing. And I can find that in my idle time too, but I want my idle time to be business focused, business minded. And this is just for me personally. I want it to be business focused and business minded because I want to be able to cultivate something that I can turn around and pass down to my son. Even if he doesn't decide to run a business, I want to be able to say, okay, well, you could be a trust fund baby. That's kind of what I want my son to be. I kind of want to be a trust fund baby. Like, here's a trust fund, live your life, son. Like, live your life for as long as you can live your life. Do all of that. It's kind of what I want for my son. And I want him to be able to embrace life at its fullest without having to worry about money. And that's why I went to school. And as I ended up at, my fourth school, and I gunned my way through it. I went this fall, spring, summer, winter. I went all year round because I had a goal. And the goal was to make sure that my son had the best of both worlds. I didn't want him to be able to walk out I wanted him to be able to see me walk across the stage. I want him to be able to have somebody to look up to. And I wanted him to be able to say, my dad was able to achieve this and I can achieve it well. It's about being that pillar, it's about being that example, and even, like I said, I wanted my idle time to be my business. In my spare time was my enjoyment. So even in my spare time, I made time for my son, and even in my idle time, I made time for my son. As you know, I did have an animation company that he was a voice actor for, and he could have went and ran with that. We did video game streams together. He had his channel, I had my channel, and we would do our streams together. In hopes that he can turn that into a business and make it, profitable by, gaining a following, or just doing it for fun, but still gaining a following and getting an understanding of, promotions and marketing and media and just all of that stuff that he can have under his belt. Just those little bit of skills can take you a long way. And, he could be able to do that. Now, he played video game in his spare time, but he could turn that into something, great and grand in his idle time. So I say this to everyone, don't let your idle time take you nowhere. Okay, you can do anything in your idle time that you believe is enjoyment to you. If that's playing video games, if that's investments, if that's writing a book, if that's being a movie critic. There's so many things that you out here that you can do in your idle time for it to be passive money, for it to be more money. If you just don't want more money, you just want something to do that is grandiose, that's grand to you. Do it in your idle time. I remember I was sitting down in my basement, kind of like where I'm at right now. I was sitting down in my basement, and one of the things that frustrated me was I was watching Netflix. And watching Netflix, I'm looking at other people's sitcoms and movies, and I'm like, well, why aren't you writing a script? Why are you sitting down here watching other people's work come to life? And you could be doing the same exact thing. And I sat there and I just kind of looked for a minute and was like, and this was a conversation with myself, okay? I was talking inside of my head. But I was thinking like, man, like, I really need to use my time a little bit better. And the reason why I should use it a little bit better is because I'm watching everybody else manifest their dreams, their desires, their everything. in their idle time, and I'm sitting here watching them manifest their dreams on the TV. Yes, I want to be a script writer. Do I want to be an actor too? Hey, I will jump in a Tubi movie. Just give me the call, man, and I'm there. But it doesn't happen by sitting on the couch. Like, you have to get out there. You have to go and get it. One of my good friends, I had him appear on one of my cartoons and, do a few lines for me on a few episodes. And he did a good job. And he took that, and now he's in Tubi movies, and I can't be even more proud of him. Like, I'm very ecstatic, and I love to see the progression of his career. But he took that and he plateaued. He went somewhere and it opened up new doors and opportunities for him. It was a great thing, and I don't know if he was doing it before I asked him to do it, because we hooped together. So I don't know if he did it before I asked him to do it, but after I asked him to do it, he was like, yeah, I'm about to be in movies and on the big screen and stuff. And I was like, bro, congratulations, bro. Like, I'm always root for you. Always want to see you succeed. But to everyone else out there, your spare time can be whatever you want it to be. Your idle time can be whatever you want it to be. But, there's always room to be better. There's always room to be greater. And everybody can manifest greatness within oneself. You just have to find the doors of opportunity to do it. I listened to the audiobook for Rich Dad Poor Dad, and there's one thing in there that always sticks out to me, and I tell everybody this. And basically what the line said is, when you come against an obstacle and you tell yourself that you can't do it, you can't get past it, your brain shuts down of even thinking or attempting to think of a way to open up doors of opportunity. But if you can tell yourself, how can I do this? What ways can I do this? And think more positive about the opportunity, doors will open up. Your mind will actually start to get to flowing on how you can do it, and gearing itself, like the juices start to flow. So keep your mind open to new opportunities. Keep your mind open to positivity, because that in the long run is going to be way more beneficial than telling yourself that you can't do it. I'm your host, MNG. Hey, I'll catch you on the next go around. Peace.